As many of us know, the Utah Jazz are one of the best teams in the NBA with a 41-14 record, which is good for the best in the NBA. They're shocking many people and catching many people by surprise with this record because no one expected the Jazz to have the best record in the NBA. Now, yes, they have some good players in Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, but people never expected it to be good enough to be better than the Nets super team, the 76ers, and of course the LA Lakers and LA Clippers. So what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Everyday Sports Mania. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing a video on the Utah Jazz and why they have a lock on the Western Conference, we should say. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let's get into it. So one of the biggest reasons why the Jazz have the best record of the NBA is their young buck superstar Donovan Mitchell, probably a top 20 player in the NBA, and he's really taken that big step to be the superstar of the team. Many people have been debating who's the better player, Gobert or Mitchell, but really Mitchell's proved himself to be most of the reason why the Jazz are so good. Today we're going to be going over potential spots, teams that are having competition with them, but why the Jazz are the best team in the Western Conference. So the first team I want to talk about is the LA Lakers. If the LA Lakers weren't injured, people would consider they would be first in the Western Conference. They recently signed Andre Drummond after he was bought out by the Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron James and Anthony Davis are both currently injured, but even before their injuries, the Utah Jazz were still the best team in the Western Conference. Now, I think when the Lakers come back healthy and they are in the playoffs, they will be a more deadly team. But for now, and we're talking about the regular season, they are not a competitor to the Utah Jazz, and the Utah Jazz will for sure be a better regular season team than them and have a better record. Next is the other LA team, the LA Clippers. Now, the LA Clippers' main core is Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Both are great players. Now, the Clippers are a great team and are on a 6-game win streak, but the Clippers are still not good enough to beat the Jazz. Their only part of the team is Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and other than that, they don't have much. They got Marcus Morris, they got Markieff Morris, they got Rajon Rondo, they got Serge Ibaka. So it's decent pieces around Kawhi and Paul George, but other than Kawhi and Paul George, there's not much. So that's why I think the Jazz will be a better team, and they won't compete with them. Now, the next team in the Phoenix Suns, they are second place in the Western Conference with a 39-15 record, right behind the Utah Jazz, and since their new addition of Chris Paul, they have been on fire. We all remember the old Suns where it was one-dimensional around Devin Booker, but since getting Chris Paul, they've really been good contenders, and they are one of the best teams in the NBA. DeAndre Ayton has taken a drastic step up, Chris Paul has been the missing piece they've needed, and Booker's an MVP candidate. Now, I do think this team will be a competitor, but I still think the Utah Jazz will retain the first place spot, and I don't think the Suns will take it from them. The next team is one of the hottest teams after the trade deadline, the Denver Nuggets. With the recent addition of Aaron Gordon, this team has been on fire. Michael Porter Jr., Nikola Jokic, and Aaron Gordon have all been on fire. Jamal Murray's been great as well. I think the Nuggets are easily going to be competitors and possibly can make a run for the Western Conference Finals again. But I don't think it's enough to beat the Jazz. I really like this team's depth, but I just don't think it's enough. I think they need a better team built around Jokic, and I don't think they have it. I think Jamal Murray is good, Aaron Gordon is good, and Michael Porter Jr. is just about decent. But I don't think it's enough to get past the Jazz. By the way, prayers to Jamal Murray. Let's all hope that he's okay and hope he comes back strong. Now, I've made the conclusion that the Jazz are the best team in the Western Conference, and I believe that the Jazz will get the 1 seed and have a lock on the Western Conference 1 seed, like I just said. But now it's, can they make a run in the playoffs? Can the Utah Jazz be a literal competitor for the NBA championship? Can they compete with the Philadelphia Sixers, Brooklyn Nets, Milwaukee Bucks? Because we just haven't seen a whole lot of the Utah Jazz playing against Eastern Conference teams because they are on the Western Conference. So we kind of get the idea that they are better than the Suns, Lakers, Clippers. But can they beat a team like the Brooklyn Nets? Well, I think Donovan Mitchell's been balling out, and I think he's a sleeper for the MVP candidate. Now, I don't think he's going to win it, but I think Donovan Mitchell deserves some respect and deserves to be at least in the conversation. And I think if Donovan Mitchell keeps on playing like the way he's playing, getting these and ones, shooting the way he has been, and making plays in the paint like he has been, this team's going to be a contender for the NBA Finals. Now, I know they can't depend on one player, but they got the depth. They got Jordan Clarkson, they got Mike Conley, they got Rudy Gobert, they got Joe Ingles. It's not a bad team. I mean, they usually run Mike Conley at point guard, Mitchell at shooting guard, and Ingles at small forward, and then usually, I don't know, like a guy, Gobert will play like center. So it's a good roster, and I think it's a team that could really... Oh, and Bojan Bogdanovic, of course, he can play at the power forward spot or small forward spot. But it's a good team, and it's definitely the best team in the Western Conference right now. But the question is, can they compete for the NBA Finals? My answer is yes. I think they can compete with the 76ers and Brooklyn Nets. I think they can give the Brooklyn Nets, when healthy, a run for the money. We just saw the Brooklyn Nets lose to the LA Lakers, and the Lakers didn't have LeBron James or Anthony Davis. So I think if that is true, then why can't the Jazz beat the Brooklyn Nets? Or why can't the Jazz beat them? Why can't the Suns beat them? But in conclusion, I think the Jazz are the best team in the Western Conference. I think Donovan Mitchell is one of the most underrated players in the NBA, and I think the Jazz will be able to compete for the NBA Finals, and I do think they have a lock on the Western Conference. Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what NBA or NFL team to do next. I'll be doing more of these videos, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.